We sit within the HR department, and some of you may be wondering, what a law firm or an accounting firm like Church and Dwight will be doing in the talent space. But actually, we're a large CPG company. Most people ask me, most people say, well, what's it like working with lawyers? And I have no idea. So we make a variety of brands. We also do some specialty chemicals, but we make these 11 key power brands you may have heard of or use. If you don't, I would ask you to please start utilizing them so that share price can go up a little bit. So we have a revenue of about $4 billion, and about 5,000 employees help us to do that around the globe. We've been on an incredible growth trajectory over 10 years, growing from about $1 billion to $4 billion, but we've been around over 100 years total. And what that means is we are constantly having to think about how to work differently. If you think about a $1 billion company with relatively fewer employees and making this adjustment, we're always pressuring ourselves to do that. And we believe that our organizational success is driven by these three key things, primarily focused around our ability to be agile. So we try to keep our hierarchy low so that we can make quick decisions. We try to put decision makers close to the decision. We try to ease communication across our organization. And we want to have an organization that has the ability to adapt to the external environment, which is changing very rapidly. Just think about if you have an Instagram, just think for a second, how many people in the room here have an Instagram where they saw a product that they've never seen before, a brand they haven't seen before in the last month? Right? So lots and lots of people. The ease of launching a new product, the ease of launching a new brand has fundamentally changed. We need to be faster than our competition, and often our competition is 5 people sitting in a garage, mixing chemicals and trying to sell it to you as being highly, organic and completely different than anything you've seen before. We obviously have to do way more in the back end around that with a company of our size, and what we're trying to do is figure out what we've figured out is that to achieve all of this, it requires people, and it requires people who are enabled to do their job. So what we're talking about increasingly in our organization is the employee experience. What is it like being an employee at Church and Dwight, and how do we enable that in our organization? So I work in a function. My function doesn't make money for the company directly. And I have IT friends that also work in a function that doesn't make money directly for the company, although we're starting to get into some ideas of things we can sell on the IT side. But what we've realized increasingly is that over that 10-year journey, we made things incredibly complicated for our employee base, both on the IT side and on the HR side. If you want to check your 401k, you've got to go to Vanguard. And then you need to be able to remember that Vanguard's where you need to go. If you want to check your stock balance, you've got to go to another provider. If you want to go on a leave of absence, you've got to remember that there's a leave team, and how do you get a hold of that leave team? If you join us, we're hopeful that we'll get a computer to you on day one, and that our IT team will do that. But our HR organization needs to talk to the IT organization to make that happen. We've put incredible complexity into our world. And that's created incredible complexity for us as functional employees who are trying to deliver service to the organization and, in the end, talent outcomes. But it's also created incredible frustration for employees, all of whom are coming to work every day just wanting to do their job, create impact, create value for the organization. So for the last, I've joined Church and Dwight 6 months ago. I've spent a lot of that 6 months trying to figure out what IT solutions we can utilize on the HR side to make our lives easier and employees' lives easier. So in our world, as very similar to a lot of large corporations, the HR budgets don't rise dramatically. The shareholder doesn't want to load a lot of money into IT technology in the HR space. We can't add a lot of additional people to solve the employee experience problem. And yet, we're growing fairly rapidly and dramatically with new employees, new acquisitions, and all of these things. So the challenge we're trying to face is, how do we integrate all of these systems that our employees need to interact with? How do we implement self-service as much as possible? How do we make that self-service feel like a consumer-grade experience while taking the work out of the system? And how do we do that, all of that, leaving employees feeling valued and enabled? And this has been our biggest challenge. In this 6 months, I've been out looking at a lot of technologies. We've been trying to decide, can we use chatbots to answer basic questions? Can we use artificial intelligence to help us predict when an employee would need a certain intervention? If we're onboarding an employee, we're trying to look at how we can use business automation to make that onboarding smoother and more efficient. And so I'm having an opportunity to chat with a lot of folks from startups here in the room today. And you know what the biggest challenge we have is? We have an IT team of 3, one of in the HR side, one of whom is primarily focused on data analytics. So I've got 2 people trying to figure out this entire ecosystem, keep it running, and monitor the external environment on what new things we should take in. And my biggest issue that I'm trying to solve is that I've got FOMO, okay? So fear of missing out. So I can invest today in this startup that's going to help me with my onboarding problem, but what am I giving up? You know, where I'm using those dollars to try to solve that, and there is no one that can help me with my entire end-to-end employee experience. So this is what we're trying to face, what we're facing in the corporate HR side around information systems and technology we want to implement. How do we know what to invest in? How do we implement those technologies with very few people? And then how do we keep them running, and how do we keep them all integrated? And we're actively out right now looking for solutions that will do this for us and allow us to take our HR people off of things that they shouldn't be spending their time on onto much higher value-added opportunities, while not allowing the employee to feel like we left them alone. So that's our challenge. That's what we're trying to fix. That's what I'm excited about all of you telling me how you're going to fix it right after this while I grab a beer. So I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with all of you today.